More now on our top story. U.S. President Donald Trump's address to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland today. During his 90-minute speech and a Q&A session, he claimed tariffs he has introduced have helped the auto industry to boom in his country.
Hundreds of big factories, car plants are moving back to the United States. They're coming in from Canada. They're coming in from Mexico, from Japan. Japan's coming in and building plants here in order to avoid tariffs.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford has been vocal about U.S. trade threats. Today, he repeated criticism of Prime Minister Mark Carney's new trade deal with China. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is in Toronto with more.
Well, and the Premier was joined at his news conference by Lana Payne from Unifor, which represents thousands of auto workers, as well as Brian Kingston and Flavio Volpe, who are also leaders in the auto industry. And all of them, Andrew, expressing their concerns about this deal that Prime Minister Mark Carney signed with China last week, which will see the 100% tariff on electric vehicles from China dropped down to 6.1% and allow up to 49,000 Chinese EVs to enter the Canadian market. Premier Ford saying that this deal is asking Canadian auto workers to compete on an unfair playing field. And he reiterated that he thinks Ontario got nothing out of this deal with China. It didn't benefit one way or another, whereas some other provinces did and other sectors did, because China in exchange agreed to drop some of its tariffs on some seafood and canola products. Now, Doug Ford saying if China is serious about making any investments in Canada, which Prime Minister Mark Carney alluded to when he was explaining the deal with China, that there could be potentially some joint ventures, potentially with Chinese companies. Mark Carney saying that this deal with China could be good for Ontario auto workers in the sector here. Doug Ford saying, show us the proof. We need some concrete guarantees about investments, because he said Canadian auto workers cannot feed their families on hypothetical commitments about investments. He said the Canadian auto sector is under attack on two fronts, from the United States and the tariffs it has imposed that are affecting the auto sector, and from China. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford.
Our auto sector is under attack. Hundreds of thousands of good-paying, unionized Canadian jobs are on the line. Let's come together. Let's support, defend, and fight for Canada's auto sector. Let's protect Canadian workers. And in a very unstable world right now that we've all seen on television, let's provide Canadians the certainty, the stability, and support they deserve.
He also once again reiterated that he's disappointed with Prime Minister Carney. That is Doug Ford's word, that he's disappointed because he wasn't really looped in to the possibility that Canada was prepared to make this deal with China and drop these tariffs on EVs. He was only given a heads up a few hours before the announcement was made. And he has said in recent days and again today, he would have thought that he had a good enough relationship with Mark Carney that the Prime Minister would have given him a quick phone call or a text to give him a heads up that this was coming, given the impact that it could have on Ontario's auto sector. And just lastly, in terms of comments from Ford that stuck out, Andrew, he was asked at the end of his news conference, is he telling Canadians to boycott any Chinese-made EVs that might end up here in the near future? And he very clearly said, yes, that's exactly what he's doing, that Canadians should support companies that are building cars here and are employing Canadians.
The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick in Toronto